So as I mentioned, I work more in the data integration part, machine learning tools, trying to assist swine producers. So not a little very related to that, but I'm also chairing the U.S. Swine Health Improvement Plan, the U.S. SHIP. I'm the chair of the market hall sanitation, so this is some results of the work that we have been conducting for the past 2 years. So pretty excited to be here and set the stage for the next 2 presentations, which I think are the most important ones. So as I mentioned, I'm the chair of the market hall sanitation from U.S. SHIP, and I'm going to give you just a little bit of background of what's the current scenario here in the United States related specifically to market hall sanitation biosecurity, right? So this is a work that was conducted by Dr. Harlon, and he did collected information from multiple producers across the states. And as you guys can see here, basically the blue bar is representing the amount of people washing the trailers all the time, right? All the time they wash trailers. So if you look at growing pigs, tops, or farrow to feeder, small holding, or sow farm trailers, weaned trailers, pretty much everybody's doing a really good job in the industry. But our low-hanging fruit, let's say like that, is on the growing pigs, especially on the run-out loads. So there are systems that are not washing at all, and there are systems that are washing, and when you look at the average, you're gonna have half of them are washing. So it's a low-hanging fruit, especially treating about diseases like PEDV, right? We know we faced that back in 2013, so it's an opportunity here for us in the industry. And this is a chart that's showing collecting data across all the laboratories in the United States for PEDV, and this is the result of positive results. And as you guys can see, we're gonna have the seasonal pattern of detection across the United States, where we have lower detection in the summer times and higher detection in the winter times. So there's an opportunity here also to note that we have a time in the year that usually PEDV is low, right? Especially in the summer, and it's gonna be high in the winter. Just related to some cost of the economic impact of washing trailers or not. So this is understanding a little bit of what's the current scenario. So back in 2020, Dr. Main, he did a work where he went to slaughter facilities and also commercial farms, and he sampled a lot of these packing plants and also a lot of growing sites. So about 961 finishing barns were sampled, and 329 holding pens at the slaughterhouse were sampled, just to see how much of PEDV we have across these sites in a snapshot of that moment. So that was July and August back on that time, and we can see from 28 to 15% positivity for PEDV. So we know that PEDV is everywhere, specifically in growing pigs and slaughterhouse. We're gonna find that all the time. So it's gonna be 0% prevalence. And this is a time of the year that we would expect lower prevalence, right? Because it's in the summertime. So that's, if we look at these results here in the winter time, it's gonna be probably higher. So it's a snapshot just confirming what we already know. So if we wanna talk about the economic impact, I'm gonna use this study by Dr. Sprunk, where he basically did, using current numbers that they had, the cost of washing a trailer is around $125 to $175 to wash a market trailer. If a producer is marketing 100,000 pigs per year, could save about 312 washes, around $50,000 if not washing those trailers. So let's not wash those trailers, that will be around $50,000. But on the other hand, the cost of PEDV break, if we use a number of $4.4 per head, there's a little variation, but that's kind of where the number is. If we have a 10% break for market pigs, that will cost pretty much the same amount of money in this case, in this scenario. So what we usually see, and Pete is gonna bring these numbers better, what we usually see, sorry, it's PEDV breaks, they're gonna cost, the investment to wash the trailers, they are worth it, especially because of the prevalence of the breaks, around 10, 15, 20%. If you are able to reduce that number, it's pretty much a breaking even. So we need to do a better job, here I'm talking also the university, on estimating, helping them to understand the impact of the other things, the indirect costs that we are not measuring here. And this is a work that was done, a survey across Iowa. So back in 2020, they identified that we had 66 truck wash stations in Iowa. And we got answers from 38 of those 66 truck washes. Just to understand what's the current truck wash capacity in Iowa, which is our, let's say, the largest player here. So we had 38 responses out of 66 truck washes in Iowa, and we found information that we have 76 bays in Iowa for those 38 truck washes. And let's assume that these 38 truck washes that answer represent, let's say, 60% of the truck wash capacity in Iowa. And if we consider a number of, let's say, around 40 million pigs slaughtered per year, that will be around 5,000 market loads per week. So let's say to wash all these, we would need around 128 bays in Iowa, and the capacity to wash around 3.1 million. So with these 76 bays, doing this estimation and saying that we are at 60% of Iowa capacity, the answer that we have here, that will be able to wash 3.1 million pigs per year. Right? So a little bit lower than what we would have the real number from the 40 million here. So there's a gap here of 1.6 of market loads washed per week. So to fill that gap that 1.6 market loads that we need to fill the 4.8 to the 3.1, we would need 33 bays in Iowa, assuming the results from this survey that we conducted. And if we consider $500,000 per bay, that will be around $16 million for 33 bays. So if you think about in terms of investment, it's not a very huge investment for biosecurity if we want to be able to build truck wash capacity for all the states of Iowa, which is the largest one here in this case. And if we start doing that nationally, in my opinion, it's worth investment, right? So that's what we are, let's say, around today in Iowa, 4.8 market loads per week, and with the current capacity around 3.1 that we are able to wash. So to build this 1.6, that will be around 16 million for 33 bays. So this is a work that was conducted by our Iowa Pork Industry Center. So if you type on Google, Iowa Pork Industry Center, IPIC truck wash, you're going to be able to find this map, and you can play with it and see where the truck wash locations in Iowa. So just type IPIC truck wash on Google, and this will give you to this page. And here you can see the current truck washes that we have in most of the states here in the U.S., and you're going to have information about it, just to bring that to you guys. So that's where we are. Like, if we look at Iowa, what will be needed in terms for building capacity to wash all market trailers, right? And for the systems that are not washing, what we are seeing is that they're either not going to wash all the loads for run-out pigs, and for top loads they would wash or not. But what we wanted to do as part of SHIP is, okay, what are the people out there in the industry today that are washing all market trailers they are doing? So we basically visit 6 truck washes from different companies here in the U.S. that are actually washing all market trailers for market pigs. So what they are doing. So the 6 truck washes, 3 truck washes, they had the truck wash at the packing plant. 1 was nearby the packing plant, and 2 were not close to the packing plant. So different scenarios, but I'm going to give you some idea of what is that. So this is, you guys can see some of the infrastructure that we would have there. This is a truck wash there where they would have the TAD system, right? So they would heat the trailers after disinfecting with this technology. So this is how they use. So they would have this arm, and that opens and blows the hot air on the trailer. So this is a system that it was a little bit more related with genetics as part of their business. So they saw the investment of washing, disinfecting, and baking the market trailers. So all market trailers are baked in their system, right? This is their solid separator from the truck wash to bring the water back to the lagoon. This is another truck wash. but just showing a different way to the solid separator. They will have this chain similar to dairy cow where we just pull and bring the solids. This is where the employees, after they bring a trailer, they take a shower and then they bring new clothes and go back. So this is another system that it bakes all the trailers. This is another one that the truck wash is really close to the packing plant. So when the truck arrives, it's going to park in this soaking area, so a pre-soaking area. And they will wash the trailer. One important thing that they mentioned was generator. Not all truck washers, they would have that. So it's important to have if we don't have any power, it's important to keep washing the trailers. One topic that a little bit people agree or not, but it's maybe better than doing nothing, of course. So will be the recycled water use. So this is a truck wash where they would bring water from the lagoon and do this flush to eliminate all the big solids and save water, because one of the biggest hurdles for not washing market trailers is the water availability. This is another solid separator structure. And we went to Denmark to understand, because they're kind of the gold standard in terms of biosecurity, what they are doing internally at Denmark. So we already really know what they're doing for their border for ASF, but what are they doing, the Danish folks, for their growing pigs internally moving to the packing plant. So things that we learn in Denmark, take homes, is they have these trailers for every farm where they would have to deliver or send pigs, receive or not, they would have a trailer that would move the pigs internally, so you avoid direct contact with the loading chute, and they would wash that infrastructure there. Another thing that they will have is a washing station at the site. So whenever you receive pigs from somewhere, you wash the trailer at the site before going back to the road. And the last one is they wash every trailer at the packing plant. So all slaughterhouses, they have the truck washers at the packing plant. So what you basically have here is a scenario that whenever you send pigs to some farms, they're going to wash the trailer there. And whenever the pigs arrive at the packing plant, they're going to be washed at the packing plant. So you don't have trailers that are running in the street, driving the street dirty. And lastly, this study past summer, because from all that you guys are seeing here so far, we saw that one of the approaches that the systems are doing is a volume hose and disinfect. So this is a type of wash that is being used widely for market pigs. So you're not doing power wash and baking. Some systems, they would see the investment to the benefits of baking trailers. But what we saw, especially here in the US, for people that are washing trailers at the packing plant, is a volume hose and disinfect. And when we went to Denmark, we saw the same scenario. So they're just doing volume hose and disinfect there. So we want to test different types of washes to see if that matches with what we are seeing here as part of the reality, right? And see other opportunities as well. So this study wanted to evaluate different ways, alternative livestock wash methods. And we basically had 5 treatments, of course, the positive control and a negative control. But we had the scrape and bake wash, which is a wash that you don't use water. So we just scrape and then you bake the trailer. You had a volume hose and disinfect, which is the one that I just mentioned to you guys that the Danish folks are doing. A lot of companies here are doing today in the US at the packing plant. And let's say the gold standard one will be the power wash and disinfect, which will include first a volume hose, followed by a power wash and then disinfect. So it takes more time and use more water, but will be, let's say, the best one for washing. And we did 5 replicates per treatment. Positive control is just no wash with PD positive feces, and negative control is a no wash with PD negative feces. So we had these mini trailers that we can see here. They're actually produced by a company that builds trailers, so they are pretty nice trailers. And we contaminated those trailers with feces from naive sow farm for PD, and then we inoculated with this PD inoculum. And then you spread that out. And like again, the positive control, we wouldn't wash, and then we would collect samples from both internally and outside here, and then we would inoculate those in pigs to see if they're going to produce disease or not. So basically, this is the scrape and bake. So we're not going to wash with water, just use a scraper. Here's a nice scraper, and then you bake. So you can see that there's no solids, but you can see the feces visually. And then the baking for until reaching 160 Fahrenheit in the surface. This is the volume hose and disinfect. So you guys can see here that there's a little bit of feces here visually. So it's not a perfect wash, but like I said, it's what people are doing in Denmark, what people are doing in many countries for market pigs. As we know that maybe you don't do that for sow farms, but for all market pigs, it's an alternative. So it's just a volume hose and then disinfect for 10 minutes. You have the disinfectant acting. And here's the power wash and disinfect. So pretty much you cannot see any visual feces here, right? So this will be, let's say, the gold standard way. And this is how we do it. So after we do that, for all the treatments, we would simulate foot traffic from inside to the outside, and samples from this area here is where we inoculate those samples on pigs intragastrically, and then see if they're going to produce disease or not. So these are the results. As you guys can see here, the red one is the positive control, the yellow one is the scrape and bake, the black one is the volume hose and disinfect, and the blue one is the power wash and disinfect. So the green one never produced disease, so no positive results from all the types of samples. So this is the chute sample, the trailer sample, and the inoculum. Of course, they were all the same in the inoculum, so prior to wash. The trailer samples, the power wash and the positive control sample remained positive across all samples. But you can see here a big reduction in all of those treatments, so they're doing something. That reduction in terms of genomic copies represented for the scrape and bake, power wash, disinfect, and volume hose, 98% of reduction in terms of PED's virus. So it's a huge reduction. And the power wash and disinfect and the volume hose and disinfect, that was also a big reduction here, around 99% of reduction in terms of virus. But what happened here is that the scrape and bake, the yellow one, even though we had 98% reduction, that one produced positive pigs when you inoculated naive piglets, 10-day-old pigs, that produced PED in those pigs, and the other two ones, they didn't produce positive pigs. So this is the result. The scrape and bake, 4 out of 5 replicates, they were positive. The pigs were positive when inoculated with PED. But the volume hose and the disinfectant, power wash and disinfect, they were all negative. So that says that the water wash methods here, in this case, they were effective. With the disinfectant, they were effective in not producing positive pigs, but the scrape and bake failed, even though we had a good reduction. So conclusion from this is that investing in market health sanitation is beneficial. We see that as the companies, the industry is moving towards that, especially now we know ASF is a threat, so we know that if that ever come to happen, market health sanitation will play a major role on that. So preparing ourselves for endemic disease such as PED is a really good exercise and investment. So there's this return on investments for PED breaks, or the other gentleman we're going to talk about it. And if we think, let's say, 100,000 sow systems with around 2.3 million market pigs, that will be around 14.3 loads. It will be 2.4 million to wash. So if you start playing those numbers, how much that costs in terms of a PED break in that system, a 10-15% prevalence incidence, that's money that's worth to invest. And the U.S. SHIP is, like I mentioned, a coordinated approach to stimulate that. So we wanted to capture what's happening in the industry, some opportunities, and we can use this type of approach with U.S. SHIP to coordinate this national approach on controlling towards PED and other diseases. And with that, I'll take some time for questions, maybe later, right? Thanks for your time.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our experiences with PED and PED elimination in the Iowa Select Farm System. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about where we've been, where we've come from, and then what we're doing on market hall sanitation, and then a little bit about sow farm cleanup. And so if you look at our history at Iowa Select Farms with PED, much like others, In 2013, PED swept through nearly all of our sow farms. I think we had one sow farm back then that was not impacted from PED. And at that time, we started a gilt acclimation program, I think like many others would have in the industry, where all of our gilts would be acclimated with PED at a feeder pig age, have some immunity in order to help protect our breeding herds until we had a better handle on how this disease was spreading and confidence that we could keep it negative. During that time, from 2015 to 2022, we would have had 48 sow farms, and we were seeing anywhere from 0 breaks a year on those sow farms. I think the worst year we had was 3 breaks, and so that would have been on farms that should have had some immunity in their animals in the breeding stock from that gilt exposure. We also had 2 cases where we spread PED from our gilt acclimation site into breeding GDUs. Most of our gilts are bred off-site in GDUs and then enter the sow farm as a bred animal. So that obviously creates some challenges when you have something like that happen. And we also had 2 cases where we suspected that we spread PED from the acclimation site straight into the sow farm. And so those would have been some of our sow farms that were receiving adult mature gilts that would be bred on the sow farm. And so we stopped our gilt acclimation. It's coming up now almost 3 years ago in March of 2022. During the time since we stopped that gilt acclimation, between March of 2022 till September of this last fall, we had 4 total sow farms that had broken that time period, which is about a little over a 3% break rate. And we did have a gilt grow out site that also broke at placement. So a group of wean gilts that would have been transported into a site and broke as they were placing in that site, we believe was transport related. So that's kind of the history of where we've been at with PED, how we've managed it in our breeding herds, and what we've seen for incidents. Just showing you guys a map. This would be all of our sites. We wouldn't have other producer sites on this map, but our sows are located in Iowa, with the exception of one sow farm. You can see we've got what you see the big pigs or the big tags there would be our sow barns, and then all the smaller sites would be about 800 finishing sites that we have. And you can see our sow farms are located throughout the state of Iowa, but really interdispersed in high density areas of the state and in areas where we have a lot of our finishing pigs plus finishing pigs from other production systems. I'm going to talk a little bit now about what we've done for reduction of PED in our wean to market sites. And so one thing that we, as we went down this path of trying to really reduce the amount of PED in our system, we had a model that had been developed for back when we were using ractopamine. And so what we would do is if pigs were light on first cuts, we would put the pigs on ractopamine, and then we would have basically each interim cut and close out. We could look at the value of how those pigs gained and what we thought the value of ractopamine was in those pigs. And so we basically took that same model, and instead of ractopamine, PED was if the site broke with PED. So instead of putting them on ractopamine, it would be as though the site broke with PED, and then we could look at the impact of what that did to the growth of the pig, how many pounds lighter those pigs were when we closed, how many pounds we lost out on, and then also additional days to market. And so we knew that there was value there. The other thing that we knew was it's very difficult to get any traction on biosecurity in our wean to finish sites when the grower has a trump card of as soon as you start to talk to them about anything, coming back from the dead box or showering between their sites, and then the trump card is, well, you bring me a dirty trailer and break my pigs with PED every turn. The argument falls on deaf ears pretty quick. And so we went down the path, would have been the fall before last of 2023, where we started washing all of our market trailers. And most of these were a flush, high volume flush and disinfect, like Edison had talked about. We do have an internal wash where most of our washes were already occurring, and that would be a full power wash and disinfect. And that's located north of Iowa Falls, which is not in close proximity to any packing plants. And so we would typically in the past have washed every fourth load, regardless of whether that was a first cut or a run out. That was mostly just to keep the volume in the trailers manageable from a wood chips and feces standpoint. And so we started down this path in 2023. We were also doing a lot of other things with site inspections if we had sites that we had documented broke with the coronavirus, and getting inspections in those sites and then rewashing as needed, whitewashing those sites, and then put a biosecurity focus with some auditors around our load crews and site managers, as they potentially could spread disease between sites as well when sites are positive. And just to show you guys, this would be kind of historical comparison of our system. And I've highlighted a few numbers. There's a lot of numbers up there to potentially look at. But in 2019 and 2020, so this would be during basically October through April, we had 38% of our sites break with PED at marketing during that time. And then our worst year, you can see in 2018, 2019, we had 20% of our wean pig sites break with PED. And a big reason why we would have our wean pig sites break with PED is because our sites were still contaminated from breaking at marketing the term before. And if you look at where we were at in 2023 and 2024, we went down to under 6% breaks, and I'll show you something here in a minute. When you look at that reduction, overall it looks like about a 7x reduction in breaks at marketing, and then about a 10x from 20% down to 2% in our wean sites breaking with wean pigs that we place. So pretty substantial reduction across the board in all of our cases. And if you look at it week by week, so each, just kind of orient yourself, this starts week 39 of 2023 or 2022, and then progresses to week 23, so kind of through the fall, winter, into the spring months. And the blue bars are the number of cases that we diagnosed at marketing during that week. So you can see the peak, week 5, we had 19 cases that we diagnosed in 2020, the week 5 of 2023, and then that same week we diagnosed 4 cases in 2024. The one thing to note is we didn't really get our wash fully implemented until right here. And so we were tracking the same basic rates through the early part of the fall as we had in the past. And once we got 100% trailer washing implemented, our cases went from seeing 10 to 20 cases a week down to 0 to 4 cases a week. And when you look at it just from this point forward, when we got 100% washing implemented, we had an 11x reduction in the number of coronavirus breaks at marketing. And this just shows our wean pig site breaks going from 20% in 2018 and 2019, and then putting a focus on a lot of those things with site inspections, rewashes, the whitewashing, and those auditors came into place in 2019 and 2020, where you can see we made some improvements there, but then really just by getting those, really reducing greatly the number of breaks at marketing, we reduced down to only 2% that broke during as wean pigs. And then the final thing I'll talk about real quick is just our sow farm elimination program. And so I think we've learned a lot and come a long way since some of the original sow farm elimination programs. But I think some of the important things for success in elimination is getting your herd fed back immediately and getting that immunity up in your breeding stock, and then creating a gap in farrowing. So what we've done is created about a 5-week gap from the time we feed back till the time we start farrowing pigs again. And we use this time to really focus on cleaning up the farm and not having susceptible hosts being born that generally tend to have to be euthanized during that time period. And we do use, during the time between cleanup and re-entering naive gilts, we'll use a pre-farrow killed vaccine just to try to keep our herd immunity high. But with that program, we have been, on the farms where we've done this, 100% successful, entering naive gilt 16 weeks later and not having any re-breaks occur. And in addition, when we do start farrowing pigs again after that 5-week gap, we either get 100% negative tests, or we may get like an environmental sample with like a CT in the low 30s to mid 30s, which to me indicates we probably found some dead virus still in the environment, but no clinical signs, no problems where you run into these endemic, tough to clean up herds for PED. that's all I've got for you guys.
Alrighty, good morning everyone. Tyler Bauman with the Maschhoff. We had laid this presentation out to kind of show some of the science behind a lot of it, and then Pete coming up with a lot of the numbers in a field setting. And what I'm going to come at you with is more of like, how do you implement it from a people standpoint? With our system, we're primarily production partners on the grow finish side. There's an added layer of complexity, and so getting that buy-in, that execution, it can be a real challenge. So I will echo that we have, in our system, we have a lot of the same numbers that Pete had talked about, and the things that Edison had talked about, we had gone through within our system. And so I don't want to be redundant on that. I may touch on them. There may be a couple points, but really I want to focus on how do you get the buy-in and how, where to focus those efforts on the people side. So for just a quick understanding where I'll be coming from, on the Maschhoff side, as I mentioned, in grow finish, we are primarily production partners, so we have contract growers. We do not own the barns. We have, like I said, partners that own that, and then we put pigs in and they raise them to our standards. On this one, we're going to be focusing primarily in Iowa, which is where I do the health of. So we're broken up into 4 regions. Great Plains will be your Nebraska, Wyoming. Heartland will be in the red. That'll be your northwest quadrant of Iowa. Central Prairie will be southeast Iowa and Illinois, and then Great Plains will be Illinois. Obviously, a lot of our challenges are in the red dots. So that'd be my region, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So just a quick overview, and really Pete kind of hit on the same thing. So we started washing trucks, market trucks in 2020. I don't have the numbers before, but I would assume that they would be very similar to what Pete talked about in that very elevated prevalence at market time. And then the re-break rate on the wean pigs, which is what really frustrated us because at the time we didn't have a good tool to recover those pigs. And so it was very impactful negatively on mortality and then the feed conversion daily gain, as Pete alluded to. We did identify, obviously, contaminated market trucks being primary source of our challenges, but there was also poor biosecurity execution on various fronts, whether that's the contract grower, third parties, whoever. And so we definitely had, it's a all-encompassing thing. Washing market trucks was a huge push for us, but we certainly had to tie up some loose ends on some biosecurity practices. Big challenge, re-break and wean pigs. And then a lot of the times on the people side with our production managers, you never want to kind of admit that you got a problem. So we see this with PERS a lot. And so if I don't say I have PERS, then I don't. And then 2-3 weeks later, you're like, well, you can't escape it because, mortality, those challenges. So we had to get over that hurdle of having our field team test right away, acknowledge that I may have a problem here to stop transmittal to other sites. And I got a couple of my team members in here, and I'm not trying to call them out necessarily. So, as we talked about, elevated mortality and feed conversion daily gain. Sorry. So our response plan, first thing we had to do is we had to get confirmation. Do we actually have PED or Delta? And then with that, we're going to utilize that data, which I think is always the key question from the vet. It's like we can go and run all these diagnostics, but what do you do with it? In this case, we wanted to have confirmation, one, that it solidified what we thought, and we've been humbled a couple times where it wasn't PED, but in most cases, it solidified it, and then it always gave us a reference back. So we had objective data that we had a PCR positive, and that really helped us start getting an understanding of what our true prevalence was. We'd be whitewashing, and we'd be going at a rate of 1 pound to 1 gallon, and then we'd try to shoot for a 48-hour dry time. So this would be a standard cleanup protocol. So if we did get contaminated, we were definitely going to be whitewashing. We also changed our disinfectant, and there's probably nothing really sound about it. A lot of the disinfectants have label claims, or there's data that says, they're effective on it. What we were looking for was what disinfectant works maybe better in colder temps. And so we had come across one paper, and I can't cite it today, but that showed Virkon. We know Virkon's a very powerful disinfectant, works very good, easy to administer. And so we had switched to that. We did In our privileged areas, so like where you have controllers or if it's an office that you can't whitewash, we would be looking at double disinfectant. So you'd come through, it'd be regular cleaning, Virkon disinfectant, and then whatever our standard disinfectant is, whether it's Synergize, Atmosphere, whatever, you would come back a second time within 24 hours. We may stockpile some Nextine, so we got Techmix in here. Great product for PED. So if we had a Wiener market site that broke at time of marketing, we may stockpile in the event of a re-break and then recover those pigs pretty quickly. Marketing's done all with clean trucks. There are some exceptions to that. So if we have a confirmed PED diagnosis, we will switch them to a dirty truck. So the one thing that we're going after is just PED prevention. Rarely do we see a PERS outbreak at time of marketing from a truck. Usually if it's we're a fully vaccinated pig, by the time of amplification, the site's going to be empty. So I'm less concerned about PERS and breaking a site with PERS at time of marketing. But the PED is very quick onset. And so just from a cost savings, we don't have to do many dirty trucks, but we will identify that if it is PED positive and switches to dirty. If it's a Delta, we will continue to leave those clean trucks because they can break with PED, which would be much more severe on wean pigs on the next turn for re-break concerns. We're doing high volume flush disinfectant. A lot of that was from initial cost, and then as Edison had talked about was wash capacity. And so we can move trucks through a little bit quicker, a little bit cheaper, and get them on the road and not hold up our haulers. So this is what we did. So I mentioned a comment on what do we do with the data. So we track it. And so we have about 4 years worth of data on PED and Delta, as well as PERS, ileitis, some other pathogens. And we track it. Historically, we can go back. We can reference those accession numbers at Iowa State, where we're doing most of our testing, and try to get some trends and just try to understand, where do we need to invest resources or time or training into. So the thing is, we don't have the numbers before like what Pete had. We have the numbers since we started washing trucks because that's what we were going to use to justify at that time to wash those trucks. And so we have various comments, and most of our breaks now are kind of bonehead stuff. Didn't identify it early enough, or caretaker has shared labor type situations, and then they drag it over. Didn't recognize it quick enough, and so usually that's the kind of stuff we see. But we do get an occasional mix up with a dirty truck shows up and they end up loading it, site break. So, and I'll talk about how we address that here in the next couple slides. So from the people standpoint, which is what I really wanted to talk about. So this slide will tell you how we kind of got bought in. So the first thing we did is we put it on our production managers that they need to own testing the sites, recognize that, report that up, get samples submitted, work with health services on getting the submissions done, get aggressive on that testing. Of course, we have high-risk times, whether that's a vaccination event, loading, marketing. Obviously, wean pigs, you're really concerned. You have to kind of delineate, is it rota, is it PED? And so I'm fortunate that my team is very seasoned, and so they got a good nose for it. It was just getting the buy-in, getting testing supplies on site, making sure that testing and submission was as easy as possible for them with their busy schedules. And so that was the one thing, was just to put it on them. The next thing was on our production partners. So the way we look at it is that they own biosecurity. It's their site. They need to own it. And that was definitely kind of a hard thing to get over. So how we started to do it was that the whitewash costs and application becomes their responsibility. And so when you start talking, 20, 25 cents a pig space for whitewash, that kind of adds up. And so there's an incentive monetarily for those partners or ICs to own that biosecurity and, because they don't want to pay for it. The counter to that is that sometimes they don't want to report because they know that they're going to have to pay for the whitewash. So that's a challenge. But again, with our team and doing frequent visits, we can pick that up. And obviously, if we have wean pigs that break, we're going to have a pretty high suspicion that maybe they broke during marketing. The one thing we do, though, give them for a tool on the marketing front, we talked, the last presentation is really on the clean truck, is that they have the ability to turn a truck away, or at least report it, not load it. So I think that was a good thing that Pete had brought up, is that we're bringing dirty trucks, and most of the time it's an accident in our case right now, but we don't force them to load that. I'll show you what we do. We have like a one-sheeter that, they have a hotline, they report it up. In most cases, we're going to turn that truck away, not take that risk. There are some exceptions to that, but for the most part, we'll take the hit on the dock time because that's how much we value not breaking that side of the PD. Certainly was a growing pain for the first 6 months with our third-party haulers. I don't think we were the first to wash market trucks by any means, but certainly had increased the magnitude of wash trucks, and our contract haulers maybe weren't quite bought into the importance of that or quite ready on how they scheduled. And so, they would try to push it. They would get a notification that said clean truck. And for the first couple months, they may push that and not do it. And so as soon as we started turning those away, started getting that buy-in, they came on board. And really, we haven't had any issues since. Like I said, there is a couple one-offs, but for the most part, it's been pretty effective. We do reserve the right to be flexible. An example, so truck capacity is tight. We need to get loads out, space. We may do like a dirty truck on a dump. Risk is low. But for the most part, we're trying to keep that site as clean as possible. But we do work some situations that isn't quite strict to that. The other one is if we had like a feeder pig truck that delivered feeders, we knew they were clean, tested clean. We may take that truck and go do a market haul. And so the risk, again, pretty low with no indication of PD, clinical signs or history. So this is, I think this is my last slide, but so this is our new handout that we will be having posted in our barns for our contract growers, and really it's just the standard. One thing you'll see on this, because we do high volume flush and disinfectant, is that it doesn't have to be like zero feces. Like you can have that thin wall dried out. I think Edison's data shows that, or the studies he shared with us, that you still have a great reduction, even though it may not be 100%. What we have found in the past is that the concern really is the pigs running on and then running back off. So if we can keep the back of that, for the most part, pretty clean, and then where the trucker's not walking in, wet feces or organic matter and coming back into the chute, and there's a discussion on clean dirty lines, I get to that piece, but for the most part, the high flush or the high volume flush and disinfectant is extremely effective. And so again, it comes back to a training piece for us with our contract growers. We want to make sure that they own the biosecurity, but they have the tools to also kind of defend themselves or not have to accept substandard trailers. So we give this option to call it in, decline the truck. Well, the declination will be on our side, but for the most time we're going to be turning it away. And with that, Zoe, that's all I have.
Cool. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, and we have about 15 minutes to do some Q&A. So if you guys have questions, I'll walk around with the mic. Start with Chris.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. You all mentioned the high volume hose and disinfectant. It looked like from Edison's data that was very effective. So question for Edison and then question for the two practitioners would be is what disinfectant did you use, Edison, in your study? And then for the two practitioners, which disinfectants, and does that matter? Because obviously with high volume, you're assuming you may still have some organic matter left over. So does the type of disinfectant you're using really matter?
Yeah, good question. What we used was Synergize on the label. Use the label what's in there. And the thing was that we had the 10-minute contact, and after that 10 minutes, we flushed out the disinfectant, so it's not more than 10 minutes. Make sure that we are not overusing compared to the label. And we try to use something that it's commonly used for market pigs. We know a couple other products, but yeah.
I know the washes we use, I know that there's both intervention and Synergize used. I couldn't say if there's another one. A lot of those are public washes, and I'm not 100% certain on a couple of them. But it would be a combination of intervention and Synergize. I probably wouldn't haul my breeding stock on those trailers. It does seem to be pretty effective for, reducing PED transmission at market.
We'd be the same boat.
Okay.
We didn't have, we would have done that, but a treatment without the disinfectant, because ideally for that scrape and bake, for example, we saw that the reduction in virals was pretty similar to the volume hose, even though it was like ugly visually, but we saw that the baking at that wasn't effective, but the disinfectant helped a lot. Even though we could see for the volume hose, we could see some virus, some feces there. The disinfectant was pretty crucial on that.
Pete, when you did the 5-week close down there in your farrowing, were you aborting those sows, or do you let them farrow and kill the pigs, euthanize the pigs, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, on those, we aborted those sows right on the front end.
On late-term sows, can you get close to 100% with aborting them?
Yeah, I would say wasn't 100%, but pretty close with 2 doses of Ludolice.
What do you do with the ones that don't abort?
If they do end up farrowing, then we would euthanize
Okay.
them at the time those pigs were born. And there are some of those. Yeah. And it's, hate to have to do that, hate to say it. It's the worst thing you can ever have to do, but you save a lot of pigs on the back end.
And I got a question or comment to Edison. In Denmark, they export, 85% of their pigs. And I don't know if you've ever been to the truck wash at the border. Were you there or not? Interestingly, those trucks that come back are washed in Germany, and then they're re-washed at the border and highly inspected. People that have been to meetings probably seen those pictures that Liz Wagstrom showed. But they have on their phone, they have an app that they can follow those trucks. Those trucks cannot go back to haul out of a sow farm for like 7 days. They can haul other stuff, but they don't let them go back to a sow farm. So, their situation's a lot different than ours because they're not dealing with the disease to start with, except from out of the country, So I thought it's really interesting. If you get a chance if anybody ever gets a chance to go over there to see what they do as far as biosecurity and their 5-deck trucks that cost about $400,000, maybe $500 now, it blows us out of the water when it comes to biosecurity. It's pretty shameful what some of the things we do compared to what the Danes do.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job on that. And we actually went there as part of from a U.S. ship. The committee that we went there was to actually see the PERS reduction plan, the national plan that they have in place. And with that, they are being able to, for now with more than 70% of the sow farms without PERS, naive, and they're going towards complete elimination, but they call the national plan. And like you said, what they're doing the border with Germany, especially for ASF, the fence, the truck wash that they have there, it's incredible. But we wanted to go there, specifically myself, was to understand what they're doing internally for their movements, for the trailers going to the packing plant back and forward. And that's what we saw that was interesting. They're doing all the stuff for FAD, but internally for endemic diseases, they're washing. Whenever you send pigs to one site, you wash the truck after unloading the pigs. And whenever they go to the packing plant, they wash all trailers at the packing plant, so you don't have dirty trailers driving the road.
Hello, Brian Melody with Elanco. I just have a question specifically on metal. Haulers throughout my career spent some time descaling trailers and looking into it. Aluminum oxide thickness has an effect on porosity and friction coefficient. I didn't know if there has been work done by Iowa State or any of you guys, or that you know of, to manage aluminum oxide for the efficacy of disinfectants and the efficiency of truck washes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not familiar with any research being conducted on that, if someone knows, but at Iowa State, I'm not familiar with. You mean the survey in Iowa? Yes. The one. Yeah, it's basically what we have. What are the truck wash that we have in Iowa? So that will account for internal movements from companies, for example, Iowa Select and all the Maschhoffs, but also the public or commercial truck wash would receive pigs from many states.
Yeah, I just think, they wear a dirty boot in the hog barn and they walk off of their truck, throw up their box. They might wash it, but they never wash their box out. Is there bacteria, things in there. So I didn't know if that was something, as the integrators, if you did that, where each site had boots for the truckers at all, or?
No, so on the Maschhoffs, we have primarily third-party hauling from markets, but the requirement is that they have clean set of boots, clean set of coveralls for each site that they're backing up to. So in most cases that their office, they grab a tote before running out, and then, and then then they have to kind of do a little circus dance in the cold and, put that on. And execution of that's hit or miss, to say the best. But, I mean, the effort's there. It's not the best, but for the most part, they have dedicated clean boots and coveralls with them for that loadout.
Yeah, we'd be similar that way too. And I think the nice thing about being able to wash, is oftentimes they'll wash the boots at the same time they wash the trailer. Even if it's not perfect, it's kind of like similar concept as the trailer is. But I think it's a good point, because one thing we see, if I'm like time I've spent at packing plants that we work with, is oftentimes the driver is expected to walk into the plant to go get their ticket, and they're walking through. So I think, if you've got, I think it's probably a pretty safe assumption that any given day there's PED in the holding pens at a packing plant. So even if their trailer wasn't contaminated at that time, or the pigs on the trailer weren't, there's a good chance that their boots could come back contaminated. So I think it's a very good point.
From a truck wash standpoint, what we saw, truck washers at the packing plant, the driver wouldn't leave the truck, of course, right? So at the packing plant, they would have the crew to do that. So you just unload the pigs and go to the truck wash right there, and you don't leave the truck. That's what they say. Truck washers close to the packing plant or far, but not at the packing plant. You would either arrive at the truck wash and have a different truck waiting for you, and they would wash your trailer. And on that truck, you may just have a simple kit of clean coveralls and boots waiting for you there, or you may have a shower. So there's some variation here in the industry. But I didn't see any, everybody was doing something towards that. Could be even taking a shower or just a simple clean with new clothes.
We have a couple more minutes if there's any other questions. If not, we can give them a final round of applause. So thank you, guys. Okay, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your guys' attention. We have our final seminar is at 10:45. In this room, we have CIH coming in with Trish and Aaron Cook discussing their risk management kind of partnership, relationship, and the successes of their farm. So if you guys would stick around for that, that would be a great one. Thank you.